Jonathan Katz is a senior fellow with the American global policy think tank, the German Marshall Fund. He joins me from Washington, D.C. Welcome to DW, sir. I'd like to get your thoughts on where things stand now, because most observers thought Russia would quickly overrun Ukraine, but that hasn't happened. What's your sense of the situation?
Yeah, I mean we're really in a period of continuous escalation, and despite the desires to see Russia de-escalate, move its troops out, even the conversations that happened today between Ukrainians and Russians, I think there isn't, at least in Washington, many who feel like this is going to end anytime soon. In fact, only an escalation. And when you see the types of weapons being used indiscriminately in Ukraine by the Russian army and military, you have to be concerned about how this is going to play out with over 500,000 plus refugees right now, hundreds of thousands of more displaced internally, more people being killed on a daily basis, and Mr. Putin not willing to back down. This is headed for a collision course with the United States and NATO as we see this disaster unfold.
Now, you're saying more escalation, casualties, refugees. I just want to read you something that cybersecurity expert Dmitry Alperovich told me yesterday. He said Russia didn't expect such resistance from Ukraine, and he said that the invasion, Russia's invasion strategy so far is, quote, a textbook example of what not to do. What's your view on Moscow's strategy?
Now, Ukrainians have been valiant, and they're, the international community, in particular, partners of Ukraine, are rallying to support them, and certainly they have inflicted a great deal of damage and pushback. They're fighting for their country, and that support for them is needed. But when you look at what Russia is doing now militarily, because there's such a large military, sophisticated military, they can keep this up for as long as they want, despite the casualties. And what you're not seeing in Russia is any news reporting about what's happening to their own troops. And so Mr. Putin is not only trying to control the messages externally, but doing it internally, which then gives him a free hand to continue this war against Ukraine. And so even if you look at their military strategy and you say it's not working, one has to be concerned that Mr. Putin and his designs, and I think many people believe that the only design for him is to take over Ukraine, is going to use every arsenal and every piece of weaponry to take back Ukraine. That's the strategy. And so I'm more worried about the death and destruction in this process, and an unwillingness for Mr. Putin to take an off-ramp, whether he's winning or losing.
Let's talk a little bit more about Vladimir Putin, because the EU and NATO have come together over the past couple of days, Germany in particular, in quite unprecedented, unpredicted ways to impose severe sanctions on Russia. Do you think this kind of resoluteness has caught Putin by surprise?
Absolutely. And you can see it right now in the Russian economy with the ruble tanking. I think that, he was forewarned by President Biden that there'd be severe economic consequences. I think what Mr. Putin didn't really think would come to fruition is the unity of the transatlantic community. You've seen a wholesale change in German policy in terms of arming Ukraine. You've seen the EU step up really to become the superpower that it has wanted to be in terms of security. And so right now you have tremendous will and effort of the transatlantic community. And I think Mr. Putin really thought that he could break that unity. That's not the case. But the next couple of days will really be critical because, as you can see, as the humanitarian situation changes on the ground, as the fighting becomes more dangerous, more difficult, more destructive, there will have to be a choice at some point for NATO and Europe together, and the United States, to think about how they're going to stop further bloodshed.
Jonathan Katz with the German Marshall Fund, really appreciate your insights there. Thank you.